After only a few days of letting his diss track Euphoria leave its mark on the rap world, Kendrick Lamar is already back with another diss aimed at Drake and with his newest entry in this feud. It's clear that Kendrick Lamar is not going to stop against Drake until he hurts him in a way that he can't come back from, and while some rappers clearly want to do this, between the skill Kendrick displays here and the dirt he's digging up, as you sit down with each bar here and understand just how high of a level Kendrick's operating on, you can see that Lamar has all of the power in this beef right now. Now, before we can even dive into what Kendrick does on this new track itself, we need to take a moment and go back to Euphoria and see that through all the crazy bars and insults that Kendrick threw Drake's way, he did allude to the fact that he was going to drop back-to-back diss records, and while this only further indicates to us that Euphoria is one of the most well-written and perfectly calculated diss tracks maybe in hip-hop ever, it also brings us to this very moment with 616 in LA, and already from the title, just like Euphoria, Kendrick is already up against Drake here just from what he named the song, as it's mocking his classic timestamp series. Euphoria, the series, premiered on 616, and 616 is also the birthday of the legendary Tupac, who has been heavily involved in this feud between Drake using a fake version of him on tailor-made freestyle and Kendrick defending everything his legacy stood for on Euphoria. And beyond this, 616 is Father's Day, which is just another hilarious jab at Drake, and if this wasn't enough, it is also the time that everything with O.J. Simpson went down, so Kendrick is really not just humiliating Drake with this title, but once again he's defending the West Coast and preparing to just end his reign as a dominant artist and cultural centerpiece. Now, where Euphoria quickly amped up into a multi-layered, intense attack at Drake, Kendrick goes in a completely different direction here, as this cut only features one instrumental, and it's not intense or in your face at all, and matter of fact, the beat's actually quite beautiful, as it features a smooth soul loop from the one and only Al Green, and with Kendrick cooking Drake over a beat like this, it gives the entire track a completely different atmosphere. And when we look at the production of the song, there's even more layers beyond its sound, because Drake's uncle actually played guitar for Al Green, and in addition to this, it's important to note that the guys behind the beat are one of Kendrick's go-to producers, Soundwave, but more significantly, Jack Antonoff, who is known for working with Taylor Swift, and again, by using a beat done by somebody so synonymous with Taylor Swift. This only adds another layer to things, as it's poking right back on everything that Drake said on Tailor-Made Freestyle. So with all this laid out, which already shows that every single move Kendrick is making in this feud is intentional and done in a way to just continue leveling up over Drake. When Kendrick gets to rapping on this track, we get the pleasure of seeing him just spit straight bars over this one-of-a-kind instrumental, and not just any bars, but of course, more lines that are aimed at Drake, but just like the sound of the song itself, Kendrick takes a different approach on all angles from his own performance. Now, as Kendrick kicks off this track, he's not immediately firing at Drake, but instead is focusing on the beef from his own perspective, and I think this is a brilliant thing to do, because as Kendrick talks about how his personal life is not affected by this and that he is still at peace as a human being, he detaches a part of himself from all of this, and where Drake is constantly trolling and posting about what's going on in this feud, this seemingly shows the difference in their personalities once again, as Kendrick just positions himself as an individual who is way more mature, while Drake can't seem to grow up. Now, just because Kendrick alludes to the positive state that he's in, this doesn't mean this isn't a diss record, because right after the first few bars, Kendrick still tells us to question who he even is if he didn't go to battle against Drake, and from here, the king of the West Coast just cooks, as with straight bars and a super focused demeanor, he begins to come at Drake with an entirely new strategy, which isn't just to tell us things we already know about him and just spin it in a way that makes him look like an absolute clown, but it's to reveal to the public new things about Drake and his camp that try to tear him up from the inside. What's interesting is that Kendrick is taking a lot of the threats that Drake made and the games that he tried to play and is flipping them right back at him, as in both push-ups and tailor-made freestyle. He was trying to rip up Kendrick from his own Top Dog Entertainment label and members like SZA, and beyond this, the West Coast as a whole. But this clearly didn't affect Kendrick, as he already settled the score about all this on Euphoria, but now, he is already on the offensive in this exact same way as here. Kendrick takes so many of the claims about what is going on behind the scenes in this beef and throws it all in Drake's face. Kendrick frames all of this in a super effective and impactful way, as he calls Drake a straight out liar and a horrible person, and talks about how he has involved the wrong people in this feud just to say something, as he specifically defends Anthony Tiffith, the CEO of Top Dog, and also Cash, who is the Weeknd's manager who Drake dissed on push-ups. And from here, after pulling all the people who seemingly have nothing to do with any of this feud other than to distract Drake from fully going at Kendrick, Lamar comes at him with another power play as he reveals that his own team and label OVO may be working for him, and that because of the way Drake acts and treats the people around him, the people who he calls his family actively despise him and feed information to his biggest rivals, as deep down inside, they want to see Drake fail just as much as other people do. Now, this is an insane claim to make, and while this is not anything new, as guys like Pusha T and The Weeknd have alluded to this, as somebody like Push specifically said that he found out that Drake was hiding a kid throughout none other than Drake's closest collaborator, 40. As many people, including Drake himself, suspected that Kanye told Push about this and that he was using 40 as a cover-up, as Ye did know this as well. None of these claims were ever able to be proven, but now with Kendrick coming at Drake with the same angle, it seems like the truth about the disaster that is OVO is finally coming to full force, and after The Weeknd just sang about how OVO has leaks in their operation on the Metro Boomin and Future track All to Myself, it seems like everything is finally getting connected as Kendrick puts the final pieces of the puzzle together once and for all. Now, Kendrick does not stop here as he continues to reveal more and more about Drake, as he seemingly confirms that Drake paid people to dig up dirt on him, and all he did by doing this was lose money, as Kendrick's skeletons were already revealed on Mr. Morale, and besides that, Lamar says himself, "I'm sorry that I live a boring life, I love peace," but of course in the next bar, lets Drake know that he'll still go to war with him and destroy everything he stands for. Now, pushing all this momentum into an amazing finale, Kendrick takes both of these angles and wraps them together to continue to just stomp on everything that Drake represents, as he raps about how he is not the smart leader that he thinks he is, and that all the attempts at spreading misinformation throughout false reporting, and as Kendrick confirms, actual automated bots in comment sections on social media have not just worked against him. But at this point, he really needs to worry about what is going on in his own camp, as Kendrick says one of the biggest leakers is right next to him and two more are tired of his lifestyle, and while we don't know who specifically Lamar's talking about, we can assume that one of these supposed leakers has to be 40 and that another one is definitely Beam, who is allegedly one of Drake's ghostwriters, and as Kendrick called him out by name on Euphoria. Seems like maybe he knows something about him specifically that will come to truth if Drake decides to continue this feud. Now, closing out this track, Kendrick talks about how Drake is playing dirty, he can no longer hide behind his phone and memes, and it is time to think about who he really surrounds himself with, as he leaves him with the bar. Before you figure out you're not alone, ask what would Mike do? Which is an insane way to end this track, as once again, Kendrick has alluded back to this connection of Drake being Michael Jackson that we can see now. He really pushed Drake into playing into, as it's helping him here. But beyond just referencing the iconic MJ line, he is also talking about the fact that Michael Jackson had some serious trust issues with everyone around him at a point in his career. So when we look at 616 in LA in the grand scheme of this beef, I think this was another great move for Kendrick, as it perfectly complements Euphoria, as with the first track. It almost seemed like an overview of everything wrong with Drake and why this beef is at this point in the first place, where here, it feels like Kendrick is dissecting Drake's very strategy and is now laying out an entirely new set of cards to not just give him an advantage, but to confuse Drake and make him question how he is running his own operation. However you want to score this, Kendrick Lamar definitely gets another point with this song, and with two phenomenal diss tracks that offer us something so different both musically and crucial to the beef narratively. I don't know what Drake is going to say in response, because if everything Kendrick is saying is true, when this feud is all said and done, I don't know how Drake is going to walk out of this as the same man. So let me know your thoughts on 616 in LA, and who do you think is winning the beef overall right now? Now, if you want to see how Euphoria laid out the groundwork for this track and why it is one of the best written diss tracks not just right now, but of all time, check out the suggested video.